Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The bottle was still cool in my hand when I lifted it to my lips, the icy water sliding down my throat, soothing against the heat of the afternoon. But before I could finish, his hand brushed mine, firm, sure, and he took the bottle away. I caught his eyes, playful yet unreadable, a quiet spark flashing between us like it always did when he decided to catch me off guard. Without a word, he tilted the bottle, letting the cold stream trickle against the curve of my neck. I gasped at the sudden shock, shivering as droplets slid beneath my collar, soaking the thin fabric clinging to my skin. His eyes followed every drop as if memorizing the way my body reacted, his lips curving in that half-smile I knew too well, the one that meant he was enjoying my helplessness under his teasing. I swatted at his hand, laughing nervously, but the laugh broke when his fingers brushed the damp patch at my shoulder. His touch was warm against the cold, a contrast that made me shudder all over again. I wanted to step away, but my body betrayed me, leaning closer to his chest where I could feel his steady breath, his closeness filling the space between us. "Too cold?" he asked softly, his tone dipping lower, almost daring me to answer. The playfulness in his voice was threaded with something heavier, something that made my pulse skip. My lips parted, but before I could form words, his thumb lingered at the base of my neck, chasing the stray droplets that had found their way there. The air felt suddenly heavier, charged with the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. I could see the question in his eyes, whether I'd push him away or let him pull me deeper into the game he had just started. My heart hammered as his head lowered, close enough that his breath mingled with mine, close enough that I forgot about the cold water still dripping down my skin. And just when I thought he would give in and close the space between us, he stopped, hovering, holding me in suspense, his touch still warm on my damp skin. I froze, breathless, caught between shivers and heat, wondering what he would do next. His breath lingered near my lips, so close that I could feel the warmth brushing over my skin, yet he still didn't close the distance. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, letting the silence stretch, making me ache with curiosity. My heart beat so loudly I swore he could hear it. "You're shivering," he whispered, his voice low, almost teasing. His thumb traced a lazy path along my collarbone, circling one droplet that hadn't dried yet. I tried to answer, but the words tangled in my throat. All I managed was a shaky laugh that betrayed how much his nearness was affecting me. "And here I thought cold water would calm you," he continued, his eyes glinting, "but it seems to do the opposite." I wanted to roll my eyes, to call him out for enjoying my discomfort too much, but instead I leaned into him, letting my shoulder press lightly against his chest. The heat of him was overwhelming compared to the chill still clinging to my skin. His arms slid casually, almost innocently, around my waist, drawing me closer as if we were simply standing there, yet nothing about it felt casual. "Maybe you should stop playing games," I murmured, trying to sound bold, though my voice betrayed a tremor. "Maybe I should," he replied, his lips brushing so close to my ear that I shivered again, this time not from the cold. The moment hung between us, heavier than before. But just as I thought he'd finally surrender and close the space, his expression shifted. His eyes softened, but underneath was something else, something guarded. It was the look he always wore when he wanted to say more but stopped himself. I searched his face, my breath uneven. "What is it?" I asked, sensing the hesitation he was hiding. He shook his head lightly, almost dismissively, though his grip on my waist tightened as if he needed me close. "Nothing," he whispered, but I didn't believe him. His tone carried weight, a shadow behind the playful teasing. For a second, the air changed. It wasn't just about cold water or stolen touches anymore. There was something unsaid between us, something that made his closeness feel both comforting and dangerous. He leaned down, pressing his forehead against mine, and I felt the conflict in the way his breath hitched, in the way his hand lingered on me as if afraid to let go. I wanted to ask again, to demand the truth, but his lips parted just enough to silence me, leaving me suspended in a tension that was sweeter, and heavier, than any answer. His forehead lingered against mine, and for a moment, I thought he would finally let the silence break with a kiss. But instead, he pulled back just enough for me to see the shift in his eyes, a flicker that unsettled me. His hand stayed firm at my waist, his body close, but his gaze carried something sharper than desire. "You're different tonight," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. "What's going on?" He hesitated, brushing his knuckles along my damp neckline, almost as though distracting me. "Maybe it's nothing," he murmured, but the tightness in his jaw betrayed him. His touch was tender, his body pressed warm against mine, yet his tone carried an edge that stirred unease. "Nothing doesn't make your eyes look like that," I pressed, refusing to let it slip. My fingers rested on his chest, feeling the rise and fall of his breathing, heavier than before. He gave a soft laugh, though it lacked its usual ease. "Maybe I just don't like how easily you laugh when he's around." The word struck me harder than the chill of the water had. My lips parted, startled. "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. His hand tightened slightly at my waist, pulling me closer even as his suspicion pushed a wedge between us. "You know who. You look at him like he gets a part of you that should only be mine." A wave of heat rushed through me, not just from the closeness but from the rawness of his jealousy. It wasn't baseless. I had noticed the way his friend lingered, the way his compliments felt a little too loaded. But I never thought my husband had caught on, or that it had gnawed at him this deeply. My breath trembled as I leaned into him, trying to anchor us in the intimacy of the moment. "You think I'd let anyone touch me the way you do?" I whispered, letting my lips graze the edge of his jaw. His body tensed, torn between wanting to believe me and wanting to test the truth. "Sometimes I wonder," he admitted, voice low and rough, "if temptation would ever pull you away from me, or if you'd want to play a game I'm not ready for." The words hung heavy, laced with suspicion and something darker, an unspoken desire, maybe even a dangerous curiosity neither of us dared to name yet. His lips hovered over mine, desperate and hesitant at once, and I felt the sting of the unasked question burning between us. And just before I could answer, he pulled me tighter, as though afraid of both losing me and finding out the truth. His grip on my waist grew tighter, almost as if he was afraid I might slip away, even though I was pressed so close I could feel every rise of his chest. His jealousy still lingered in the air, raw and unspoken, but instead of pushing us apart, it pulled us into something more dangerous, more intoxicating. "Look at me," he whispered, his voice low and rough. My eyes lifted to his, and the intensity there made my stomach twist. It wasn't just anger, it was need, the kind that burned hot enough to erase reason. His hand slid slowly from my waist up to the small of my back, fingers pressing firmly as if staking his claim. I tried to speak, to ease the storm behind his gaze, but he silenced me with a brush of his thumb against my lips. "Don't say you're mine," he murmured. "Show me." Heat spread through me at his words. My fingers curled into his shirt, tugging him closer, until there was barely air between us. His lips hovered dangerously close, but still he waited, forcing me to bridge the last space. I let my mouth graze his, a teasing whisper of a kiss that left us both aching. He deepened it instantly, no hesitation now. His kiss was fierce, possessive, full of everything he hadn't said out loud. My body melted into his as his hand slid higher, tracing the damp fabric clinging to my shoulder before slipping under, his palm warm against bare skin. The contrast of his heat against the lingering chill made me tremble in a way I couldn't hide. But even in the intensity, the secret sat between us like a shadow. The thought of his friend, the suspicion in his voice, it wasn't gone. And part of me feared that if we kept going, something would slip from my lips, something I couldn't take back. As his kiss trailed from my mouth to the edge of my jaw, his breath caught, ragged, almost desperate. "Tell me," he whispered against my skin, voice breaking with need. "Tell me there's no one else. Tell me you've only ever wanted me." I froze, torn between the rush of his closeness and the weight of his demand. My heart pounded, my lips parted, ready to give him the answer he craved, or perhaps the one he feared. And before the words left me, his hand gripped my chin, tilting my face toward his, eyes blazing, waiting for the truth that could either break us or bind us forever. His hand held my chin firmly, tilting my face so I couldn't look away, his eyes burning into mine with a mix of jealousy, hunger, and something more fragile, fear. My lips trembled with the weight of the answer he demanded, but before words could break the spell, he closed the distance with another kiss, harder this time, urgent enough to steal my breath. I gasped against him, and he swallowed it, deepening the kiss until my knees weakened beneath me. His arms slid around my back, holding me up as though he refused to let me fall, even as the ground beneath us shifted with the unspoken truth. My fingers dug into his shoulders, clinging, craving, aching to convince him without words that he was the only one who could make me tremble like this. But his suspicion hadn't left, it was fueling him. His lips trailed down my neck, searing against the damp chill of my skin, his breath hot, his voice rough. "Prove it," he whispered between kisses. "Show me I'm the only one you think about when you shiver." His daring pressed me against the edge of surrender, but before I could answer with touch or confession, a sudden sound broke the moment, the faint creak of footsteps in the hallway. We both froze. My pulse hammered, not just from passion now, but from the risk of being caught in this raw, vulnerable state. He pulled back slightly, his chest still heaving against mine, eyes sharp with tension. "We're not alone?" he asked in a hushed voice, though his grip didn't loosen. Panic fluttered in me. We were supposed to be safe here, in the privacy of our room. Yet the sound came again, distant but real. A second later, his phone lit up on the nightstand, buzzing with a message. He glanced at it, his expression shifting, darkening. It was from his friend. The same one who had stirred his jealousy. The message glowed clear in the dim light. "Did she tell you yet?" My breath caught, the words stabbing through the haze of intimacy like ice water. His eyes flicked to mine, searching, demanding answers that my silence only sharpened. He leaned in closer, his mouth brushing against my ear, his tone softer now but more dangerous. "Tell me, what haven't you said?" I could barely breathe, caught between the fire of his touch and the storm of the secret I had buried. His hand slid down my side, firm, claiming, pulling me closer as though the heat of our bodies could drag the truth out of me. The footsteps faded, the house falling silent again, but the tension in the air only grew heavier. My chest pressed against his, our breaths mingling, the kiss of seconds ago still burning on my lips. His jealousy had already lit the fire, but now the unanswered message fanned it into something wilder, an intensity that left no room for escape. I clung to him, torn between confessing and surrendering to the passion that begged me to forget everything else. His eyes locked on mine, the demand unspoken but clear. And just as I parted my lips to speak, he pulled me flush against him, whispering, "Don't lie to me, not now." The truth trembled on the edge of my tongue, the secret threatening to break us apart or set us ablaze. His words, "Don't lie to me," echoed against my skin, sharp as a demand, soft as a plea. His hand stayed firm at my waist, the other gripping my chin, forcing me to meet the storm in his eyes. My pulse thundered, torn between the truth I had hidden and the love that burned hotter than jealousy ever could. Instead of answering, I kissed him, hard, desperate, pouring everything I couldn't yet say into the heat of our lips colliding. He groaned against me, a raw sound that melted into the kiss as if he'd been waiting for me to break first. My body pressed into his, the thin barrier of fabric damp and clinging, our warmth colliding until it was impossible to tell where one of us ended and the other began. "I only want you," I whispered against his mouth, the words shaky but real. My confession trembled with both truth and omission. His arms wrapped around me, lifting me slightly as if he needed me closer, closer still, until there was no space left to hide in. His lips trailed down my neck, fierce and claiming, and I felt the last of his doubt begin to crack under the weight of our closeness. For a moment, it felt like we had crossed the edge and found release, the jealousy, the suspicion, all drowned out by the undeniable pull between us. My fingers tangled in his hair, my breath catching with every kiss, every touch that left me trembling. He whispered my name like a vow, his voice breaking as though it was both surrender and possession. But then, just as I thought the storm had passed, his phone buzzed again on the nightstand. Neither of us moved at first, but his gaze flicked to it, and something in him hardened. With one hand still cradling my face, he reached out and turned the screen toward me. The same name. Another message. If you won't tell him, I will. The world seemed to stop. My heart clenched, the passion still burning in my veins colliding with the icy sting of fear. His eyes searched mine again, but this time the question wasn't about desire, it was about trust, betrayal, and whether the secret I had buried would undo everything we had just risked to hold on to. He pressed his forehead against mine, his breath ragged, torn between love and rage. And in that suspended second, I realized the climax wasn't the heat of our bodies, it was the truth waiting to erupt, one way or another. His forehead rested against mine, the glow of the phone still casting its shadow over us. My chest tightened, not from fear anymore but from the realization that this was the moment. No more hiding, no more silence. His breath was unsteady, his hands still cupping my face as if he wasn't sure whether to hold on or let go. I should have told you sooner, I whispered, my voice trembling. There was never anyone else. But I didn't stop your friend when he said things he shouldn't have. I thought it was harmless, until it wasn't. His jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he closed his eyes, breathing me in as though fighting his own storm. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the rhythm of our breaths mingling. When he finally opened his eyes, I saw something softer behind the fire, hurt, yes, but also love, fierce and unshaken. I don't want perfect, he murmured, his thumb brushing my damp cheek. I just want the truth. And I want you, all of you, even the parts that scare me. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I leaned into his touch, my body melting against his. You have me, I said, voice breaking, only you. His arms wrapped around me then, pulling me into his chest as though anchoring us both. The phone buzzed again, forgotten this time, as his lips found mine, slow, tender, no longer about jealousy or fear, but about choosing each other in spite of everything. His kiss was a promise, and I returned it with every piece of me I had been holding back. The tension that had weighed us down finally lifted, replaced with a warmth that spread deeper than any flame. Our laughter came quietly, through whispered apologies and lingering touches, until the heaviness faded into something lighter, truer. As I curled into him, my head resting against his heart, I realized the secret hadn't broken us. It had forced us to face each other raw, without walls, and what remained was stronger than before. He kissed the top of my hair, his voice soft but sure. No more shadows between us. From now on, it's just us. And in that moment, held in his arms, I believed him. I believed us.